Today I thought I'd do a Q&A. We have different comments from people. Paul Arntz, the producer, is going to read some questions to me, and I'd like to share thoughts that might help people to understand my views and hopefully might help them to understand how to look at learning and try other thoughts about direction of improving your bass playing. So welcome to a Q&A of And Nothing But the Truth.
Jeff, come on. At least try to be happy at this stage in your life. Learn to chill, brah. Your time, like mine, has come and gone. Allow the next generation the freedom to figure it all out for themselves. The modern generation of musicians, not just bass players, may not wish to adhere to the biased rules of Western music that ruled our lives whether we like it or not. Relax. Take care of yourself. A lot of cats still remember the old Jeff Berlin, who did all his speaking with this originality on the electric bass. Let the kids be themselves, Jeff. That's how it's going to go anyway.
That's an interesting thought. I guess, well, give me a second. Things evolve in the life of a musician, and one of the evolutions tends to be, I believe, a misguided path for bass players, young players, who also are self-taught. The self-taught is what one chooses in order to learn how to play and do it in the manner that they wish to. But if my time has come or gone, the fact is that there is a misguided directional influence only in the area of being taught or learning how to play the bass. So the idea that I'm not happy or not content by trying my best to give people insight into something that no instrument in classical music requires. It's only bass players, and the reason is because I think that they've been misguided by a whole system of electric bass players, none of whom, or few of whom, seem to agree on anything about being taught. So, my time may have come and gone. I may never play a gig again. I may never touch a bass again. But my points are open for discussion. If anybody sees a flaw in my bass acumen in regarding to teaching, I'd like to hear it, because I don't think that it is wise to leave people to their own devices when somebody may know a better way to influence them.
I'm always interested in hearing one of my favorite of all-time bass players, Jeff Berlin, but I think I may have a different opinion on the following matters. Not that Jeff's point of view isn't valid when applied from his perspective. When talking about soul, one really needs to define exactly what they're talking about before discussing it. Soul has different meanings and is not a static concept, even in music. Colloquially, in music, it usually means played with emotion communicated through technique, and in particular, music drawing from the vocabulary of the African-American cultural experience. None of this is hard science, purely technical or written in stone. The discussion of it is almost futile unless you're communicating with someone who relates to and is familiar with the particular idiom and how the concept relates to it. With them, you don't have to generally clarify what it means, but without doing that here, I'm not sure Jeff's point is really being successfully made. One soul, as in mind, self, and personality, is always engaged in their playing, on some level, but that's not what most people mean when they say soul. Observing space between the notes. Perhaps, more accurately, is to respect the relative time value between notes in a bar of music at a certain BPM. Case in point is bass players who shorten the time value between quarter notes in a walking bass line. Often bass players get anxious, bored or otherwise, and shrink the time between quarters, not feeling or paying attention to the implied subdivisions of time while they're not plucking a note within a bar for whatever BPM. It causes the tempo to increase and makes it challenging for other musicians who might have to play 16th or higher note divisions. Again, it's not really a hard science, but it is a generally agreed upon framework within which to mutually create. It may be imagined, but it's generally regarded as real because that's how we regard the concept of time, as linear. I really don't think I'm necessarily in disagreement with Jeff, probably just looking at the same thing from a different angle. If you haven't yet, listen to Pale Well Park by Bruford on the album Gradually Going Tornado, where Jeff duets with pianist Dave Stewart in one of the finest pieces of music I've ever heard.
Well, Pale Well Park was a brilliant tune by Bill Bruford, and playing it with Dave was I remember this session to this minute. But there's a lot here that's said, so I'll try to sum up everything. Soul might be a synonym for feeling, which is something that I don't teach and that I recommend that nobody teaches. I don't see a way to tell somebody, play this music, but feel it. I'm not sure how that's done. In other words, feeling generally comes from liberty. If one can play easily, then if the notes aren't a problem, the only thing left is to play with emotion. So I'm not sure that teaching soul or teaching feel has merit. I'm not sure that's what this gentleman was suggesting, but that's what I picked up, and I just wanted to talk about it. Everybody plays with feeling anyway. It just depends on where they are. The playing experience, by its nature, is a performance of emotion. Some players aren't very capable at this minute, so they may not be able to show it as easily. Yeah, I separate the emotion and the art of music from the teaching of it. So the things that I share are practically always referring to the literal learning of the instrument. So soul essentially I don't include it in what I talk about or teach. And quite frankly, I think it's a kind of a flawed concept in the first place to emphasize, because I don't know how you can do it. Oh, space between notes. My only and the simplest point is that the teaching, and I won't go into who does it and who supports it, but the point of teaching or emphasizing space between notes is a principle that cannot be taught because it doesn't exist, and it cannot be practiced because there's no method to it. Space between notes is a terminology of discussion. Here's a C, here's an E. There's a space in the middle. Essentially, that is the reality and the interpretive manner to play it. But there's no way to teach space between the notes. There isn't even a way to regard it. You just play the note according to the staccato, legato, and the manner of interpreting the pitch. But there is no academic and there is no even artistic way to talk or show or demonstrate or even support the concept of space between the notes. It's a term of popularity, but I'm sort of the guy that looks at what people believe and will comment that and I mean no disrespect here, but most often I find that what people believe actually has no substance, at least in the regards of translating those thoughts to learning our instrument. So that's my thought.
Imagine learning a foreign language while at the same time claiming that the old grammar rules of decades ago no longer apply. Good luck with that.
That's a very good point. And it sort of goes hand in hand with the concept of some people refer to me as not being of the times, that I'm out of time regarding how bass is taught. My view is that bass is taught, if people regard it as a language, as this gentleman seems to imply, like to learn a language, we're learning the grammar that essentially is taught decades ago. The method is the conjugation of verbs and the learning of reading and writing of a language. It's quite mechanical and quite academic. So I would agree with this gentleman that associating this thought with the idea that modern bass education has passed me by is essentially a flawed concept, because the teaching of the bass is supposed to teach the language of the bass, which is music and academic music, the harmonic music. A C scale is a harmonic principle. It's the most simple principle to explain that when you get a C scale, you can also have a D flat scale. And there is the ongoing learning of the instrument. So what has happened, I believe, is that bass players, and I apologize, but I'll be direct here, which is my way, have become guinea pigs, in that people are the test group in which new methods of bass teaching, even up to the college level, are being taught to bass students, whereby the proven methods, which do apply in 2026, the only thing that doesn't apply in 2026 are the styles of music that I enjoyed in 1960. You know, the styles change, but in every song from 1960 to today, there's a major chord in there somewhere. So the concept is to emphasize that nothing has passed me by, because I know that a language of music needs to be taught grammatically, as it were, but that people have associated the art form of music in music instruction. And forgive me again, people are being misguided here. There's a planetary misguiding event going on, and people might not take it as seriously as I do, so nobody seems bothered by it. But I have a background in music for a long way, and I want to help people to consider these thoughts. You can be taught well, but you have to want to.
Jeff Berlin was a working bassist 40 years ago and works in his car making YouTube videos today.
I thought the concept was pretty clever, driving lessons. I thought it was a pretty funny and might have been an apropos concept. I sit in a car, not at a red light, when I park somewhere, before I go into the store or go into an errand. And I have my little list of things to complain and bitch about, or things to enlighten and uplift. So yeah, for 3 minutes a video, I work in my car. That's okay. I see, even if I work in my car, even if I live in my car, I don't live in my car. Even if I live in my car, even if I can't play a note, all of it, people are invited to share where my views are flawed and are not helpful in regard to their own bass playing. I don't have to validate my views with my own economic life or the employment graph of my life, because my graph goes like this and always has. I was hot, I'm not so hot. Oh, I was real popular, not so very popular. Oh, well, I pissed off these teachers, so now nobody likes me. But I did this record. Oh, now, the thing is that a lot of musicians that have been around it 40 years ago are gone. I mean, nobody hears about them. I've never left. And I could say that's quite a credit to the dedication to music and a love of people, who I would love if you would open to new thoughts about learning. There you go.
I do not agree at all that we should stop playing Jaco's music. It, in my opinion, is a better means of respecting and honoring him than any festival could ever hope to be. Jaco is essential. I agree, far too many bass players, myself included, get stuck in his music, and he has a good many limitations, but to stop playing his music? Ridiculous. Saxophone players have giant steps, drummers have caravan, and we have Havana. It's a standard, and a beautiful one at that. I find all of your other opinions are very reasonable and easy to agree with, but that last one was ridiculous, Jeff. LOL.
Okay. All right, let me give a thought. Giant steps, because you mentioned it, is a universally regarded tune. Pianist, sax, trumpet, bass players, everybody tends to play it. Drummers have caravan. I don't think drummers have caravan. I think drummers have a great breadth of tunes in order to play. I don't believe drummers rely on caravan just as much as drummers don't rely on wipeout. Here's the thing about the bass. You made a mention that it's disrespectful, I think, to his memory. Nobody's disrespecting his memory. My views pertain to the focus in the bass community that seem to not have a vision to get past Teen Town, Havana, or things of this. That there is a sort of a modicum of songs of Jaco Pastorius' contributions that tends to be the end-all for bass players, when in fact there is a huge catalog of different music, a lot of which I have right here next to this, to my computer, and it's all based in the principles of soloing and harmony. So I will disagree that it's disrespectful. In fact, I think it's quite encouraging to bass players to give thought, to do other elements of music and practice them, and notice that their bass playing will become varied, because when one stays in a small area of performance, one generally imitates the sound, the articulation, and the harmony and the rhythm of one person. Bass players, since Jaco passed away, have almost not been able to move past Jaco. There have been songs about him. I did one gig. It was a kind of a what are they called? Like a tribute concert. They have tribute concerts, they have camps, because his impact was so fantastic. But for the bass players, they can't think past it. So I'll give a suggestion. Don't do Teen Town. if you want to play these things, learn airgen, learn oh gosh, I can't think, my mind is blank, because learn a bunch of varieties of jazz tunes or other melodic tunes, and notice what happens to your bass playing. Notice that you might actually be opening doors to better bass playing. So that's what this whole thing is about. It's the inability to move past Jaco Pastorius. It's hard to deny yourself something that's very attractive, but that's where creativity begins, by denying yourself to imitate and emulate the literal art form created by only one person. I hope this makes sense. So, in a quick moment of thought, I hope I answered people's questions. I am always open to people that wish to point out flaws in my thinking. Just realize I may not agree and try to offer my reasoning for it. But that's what happens in a dialogue. People politically talk from this side of the aisle and that side of the aisle, and often don't agree. But we're listening to each other. Thank you very much. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, the alert button, because there's a lot more coming on, and nothing but the truth.